Chapter 236. The simpler it is, the more effective it is. Zheng Xiaohong's office in the Mystery Branch building. Wen Xiao and Zheng Xiaohong could be said to be telepathic. It was time to knock off at PM. Zheng Xiaohong did not leave the office. Instead, he quietly waited for Wen Xiao in the office. Teacher, it might be because of N Zhaoxu's guidance behind the scenes. Zhu Tui, this student, is now specifically challenging students from our supernatural branch. As soon as they went on stage, he broke their legs. Moreover, his actions are within the rules. If this continues, I'm afraid there will be problems with our teaching assessment score, Wen Xiao said anxiously. I've already found out about it. Didn't you talk to this student? It's probably because of the warning. Give him some benefits, Zheng Xiaohong said. Teacher, I've talked to him. He has also made a condition. What condition? Revoke his warning punishment. Zheng Xiaohong, who had just sat up straight, slowly sat back down when he heard this. He could not fulfill this condition. Is there no freshman who can defeat Zhu Tui? Zheng Xiaohong frowned. At least there are no such students among the freshmen this year, Wen Xiao sighed. Hearing this, Zheng Xiaohong nodded slowly. This is indeed a difficult problem. If we don't handle it well, we will miss the first place in this year's teaching assessment. You know the situation best. Think about it. Is there a solution? Comparetto Wen Xiao, Zheng Xiaohong did not seem to be in a hurry. This question seemed to test Wen Xiao. Wen Xiao frowned and thought hard for a while before shaking his head. Teacher, to be honest, Zhu Tui is using the rules of the freshman ranking battle to create trouble for us. I have been thinking about this problem for a long time. Under normal circumstances, there is only one way to solve this problem, Wen Xiao said. What way? You can directly change the rules. For example, you can add a rule to the opening of the Longhu list. High-level students are not allowed to maliciously challenge students with weaker strength, affecting the ranking of the Longhu list. Or, those who have obtained a high-ranking record can only challenge those above them. They can't challenge those below them. They can't admit defeat or lose their ranking, Wen Xiao said. Zheng Xiaohong burst into laughter. Good idea. However, the difficulty of changing the rules for the Longhu list on the spot was only slightly less than revoking the warning. It would not work in the short term. Moreover, according to past practices, even if there are supplementary rules, it will only be implemented during the next opening of the Longhu list. It will not affect the opening of the Longhu list this year, Zheng Xiaohong said. Sigh. Wen Xiao slammed his fist on the desk. It has been so many years since a student from the Wuxia Genetic Evolution College took advantage of a loophole like Zhu Tui to cause trouble for the entire supernatural branch during the opening battle of the Longhu list. He's not afraid of offending all the teachers and students in the supernatural branch, Wen Xiao said hatefully. It's useless to talk about this now. That's a matter for the future. What's important now is how we solve this problem, Zheng Xiaohong said. Wen Xiao shook his head. Teacher, I've thought of and deduced all the methods I can think of. It's useless. Any method that can be used within the rules cannot solve the current problem. At this point, Wen Xiao suddenly lowered his voice. Teacher, can we use unconventional methods? Unconventionals? Zheng Xiaohong's expression suddenly turned cold. Why? Do you want to use an unconventional method to cripple him or kill him? Teacher, it's enough to get a third-year student to deliberately get into a conflict with him and take the opportunity to severely injure him. We should be able to afford the price of a detention, Wen Xiao said solemnly. Zheng Xiaohong shook his head firmly. Wen Xiao, you still lack the heart to kill. Remember, if you want to use an unconventional method, you have to use a thunderous strike. Moreover, we have to be prepared for the worst if we had to use an unconventional method. Especially in the Wuxia Genetic Evolution College, it was best not to use such an unconventional method. Once it's used, if anything happens, it might be a disaster. Moreover, there are too many variables in our school if we use unconventional methods. A student or teacher watching from the sidelines might be able to save Zhu Tui and cause trouble. Wen Xiao was stunned. After a while, he nodded. Teacher, I understand. However, I've thought of all the methods at the moment. No methods within the rules can solve the problem unless we use methods outside the rules. You can't see the wider picture yet. Zheng Xiaohong shook his head. Think about it carefully. I've reminded you before that you have to look at the overall situation when solving problems. You have to consider it from all angles so that you won't make a mistake. At the very least, you won't make a fatal mistake. Now, let me give you another possibility. The Great Tao is the simplest. Sometimes, the simpler the method, the more effective it is. The simpler the method, the more effective it is. Wen Xiao frowned and thought hard for a while, but he still could not think of an answer. He quickly raised his head and said, "I'm stupid. Please give me some hints, number and time." "Number and time?" Wen Xiao muttered softly as his eyes suddenly lit up. After receiving this specific hint, he somewhat understood what his teacher, Zheng Xiaohong, meant. "Teacher, you're saying that Zhu Tui is only one person, but I have 13 absolute seeded players under me. I also have 10 secondary seeded players under me. No matter how powerful Zhu Tui was, he could only challenge him one by one. We stall. We would drag it out until the last moment, until the last 10 minutes of the ranking battle. Then, I would get all the students to challenge the ranking and obtain a ranking. There were less than 10 minutes left. How many people could Zhu Tui challenge alone? At that time, I would let the students stall for time if Zhu Tui challenged him. Zhu Tui would only be able to challenge 2 or 3 people in 10 minutes. However, we could still afford the loss of 2 or 3 students. The points that the other students earned from the teaching assessment added up. Although the overall teaching assessment branch is lower than the previous years, it's not a problem to maintain the first place in the internal teaching assessment of the Mystery Academy. Wen Xiao had already started laughing at the end of his sentence. Indeed, the older, the wiser. He had thought of so many ways, but he had not thought of this simplest and most primitive method. Stall. He just had to stall for time. Zhu Tui could challenge the students for a round, as long as they played a little more and allowed the students to stall for time. It would not be too much to use 3 to 5 minutes for a challenge. It was completely within the rules, yes. Zheng Xiaohong nodded. We have to make a comparison first. We have to find out our advantage and the enemy's disadvantage. It will be easy to solve the problem. Moreover, Zhu Tui would definitely obtain the position of the Year 1 dragon in the last few minutes. Therefore, as long as you can stall for time until the last moment, he won't have much time to challenge the students of the supernatural branch. Wen Xiao nodded vigorously when he heard that. Teacher, you're really wise. I've studied for so many years, but I've only learned a little bit from you. Stop flattering me, Zheng Xiaohong scolded jokingly. Teacher, I'll leave first. I'll go comfort the students first. Then, I'll take advantage of the opening battle of the Longhu list in the next few days to choose the most suitable target for them to challenge. We'll try our best to get them to get a higher ranking and get the highest teaching assessment score for us, Wen Xiao said. Go on. Zheng Xiaohong waved his hand, and Wen Xiao left with a spirited expression. He did not look as depressed and gloomy as he did when he arrived. During the opening battle of the Longhu list, there was a 3-hour break in the afternoon. 3 hours of rest, coupled with the Level E Energy Restoration Elixir, would allow the Extreme Branch students to recover most of their stamina. It would be easier for them to fight in the afternoon. If the Mystery Branch students rested well, they would be able to recover some of their depleted mind power. However, the 2 battles in the morning had consumed almost nothing for Zhu Tui. Therefore, Zhu Tui leisurely ate until his stomach was round. He brought food to Enjiao Soxui before he prepared to return to the dormitory to read and rest. He was very tight on time. Other than his daily high-efficiency cultivation, he spent the rest of his time reading books. Knowledge was important. Zhu Tun had already finished self-studying the theory courses of the first-year courses. He was now self-studying all the theory courses of the second year. In fact, in the Wuxia Genetic Evolution College, most of the theoretical classes were arranged for the freshmen. They accounted for 50% or even 60% of all the theoretical classes. In the second and third years, there were relatively fewer theory classes. Zhu Tui's progress in his second-year theory class was much faster than his first-year theory class. Of course, he was also constantly reading the various theoretical ancient books on genetic ancient martial arts that Shen Jushuang had given him. As he read, he verified his cultivation. There were new discoveries in many places. If one's level of cognition was different, the entry point of the problem would also be completely different. 1 serving of papaya shrimp, 1 serving of fried fungus with lilies, and 3 fried dumplings were in Zhao Xu's lunch. And Zhao Xoxui did not say anything about Zhu Tui's ranking battle in the morning. The two of them chatted for a while before Zhu Tui left. However, Zhu Tui received a call from Luo Shifeng, a professor from the neurology department. On his way back to the dormitory after leaving the Research Institute number 14. If you have time, come to the research center now. If you don't, you can come at night, Luo Shifeng said over the phone. Zhu Tui immediately realized something. He was delighted and immediately agreed. Mr. Luo, I'll be right there, all right. Luo Shifeng was the only one in the Neurology Research Center at noon. Luo Shifeng, who still had his mustache trimmed exquisitely, smiled when he saw Zhu Tui. However, Zhu Tui immediately raised a question the moment he saw Luo Shifeng. Mr. Luo, did you succeed in developing your 9th genetic base point? What does it feel like after it's activated? Did it form a genetic ability chain? Mr. Luo, did you obtain any special abilities after activating it?